Hey, welcome to the 24K Life podcast. I am your host, Derick Gant, and we have a first ever co-host, Coach Dawn Johnson. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Hey, we're excited that you're here. Now, we needed this guy we're bringing in is so serious about what he does, and he's so professional about what he does. There needs to be two of us to ask him the right amount of questions. So we're excited to talk to Christian. Christian is the man when it comes to your inside health. And we're talking about your gut. We're talking about detoxifying. But before we introduce Christian, I want to ask you for a favor. There's going to be a lot of amazing information in this episode, and I want you to make sure that you help us by asking questions, actually typing in comments and questions if you can. And if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or some other, jump in and go to the actual page, ask a few questions, and let us know what you think, because I think we're going to have Christian back. Now, with that, I want you to understand the 24K Life is all about how you can become your absolute best self. And we look to introduce you to concepts, people, skills, and trainers that will help you to do those things for yourself. Because in your 24K life, we know that when you become your best, you're allowed to demand from society your highest value. And that's what you're here for, right? You're here to give a lot, but you're also here to get a lot. And with that, we want to introduce Christian. Christian Yordanov. Did I say that right, Christian?
Yordanov
or
Yordanov.
I said it right in the practice, but when the pressure's on,
yeah. I had someone practice it with me, and then they introduced me Yordanov. So I was like, what was all the practice we did?
Well, Christian, I didn't go over your Vita, but I'm going to now. So Christian, his mission is to help improve health and the quality of life for as many people as possible. And let me just tell everyone your qualifications. Now, I need you all to take a deep breath, and I need you to hold on because it's a list. All right. So the list goes, he is a certified personal trainer. He is also a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. He is a Buteyko breathing instructor, a Pn1 Nutrition Coach, a GrowBaby practitioner, which I cannot wait to ask him about that, and a DNA Fit trainer. You hear that one? DNA Fit trainer. We're going to be all over that one. And most importantly, he is a great human being. Christian, what do you want to tell? Where do you hail from, Christian? Where do you live?
I'm from Bulgaria. By the way, I hope I can live up to that introduction, guys. It took me a whole weekend to get all of those certifications, so hopefully I can live up to that intro. Thank you so much. I'm from Bulgaria originally.
Okay, excellent. Well, we do not doubt that you can live up to those at all. But why don't we start with just kind of going through before we get into like the plain layman's terms of what you do. Let's get into some of the things that I know I never heard of and explain to our listening audience what it really means. So what is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner?
Basically, we're practitioners that use fairly advanced lab testing to really zero in on what could be contributing to a person's health problems. So we use stool testing, hormone testing for sex and adrenal hormones, food sensitivity testing, and a bunch of other stuff that we don't need to go into too much detail. And we use that to design a program based on diet, rest, supplementation, exercise, stress reduction, and amazing things can happen when you identify the roadblocks to health, remove those, and add the nutrition and the rest and all that good stuff. Literally amazing things can happen.
Nice. So I know I said we weren't going to get into the layman's terms, just yet, but I changed my mind already. So do you do this globally, or does someone have to come in, sit with you to get that particular service?
No, I have clients. Most of my clients are in the USA. I'm in Portugal right now, but most of my clients are in the USA. Some in Europe. A couple of them are in Australia. So we can basically, most of the labs are in the USA.
Okay.
So it's actually even more convenient for folks in the USA. Everything, all the lab test kits get shipped to your door. You just call the courier when you're ready. They come pick it up. So it's pretty seamless. I can do it from anywhere. And yeah, we really like. There's thousands of functional diagnostic nutrition practitioners now.
Okay.
It's been around since 2008. So we're doing some amazing work. In fact, medical doctors are taking the course, at least the part of the course that's all about how to use the lab tests.
Okay.
If medical doctors are wanting to learn how to use lab testing to truly help their patients, you can imagine the impact that it's had already.
Excellent. So what about this Buteyko breathing instructor? What's that about?
So I studied Buteyko breathing with Patrick McKeown, who is a fairly world-renowned breathing expert. I think he's written like 12 books at this point. He studied with the late Dr. Buteyko, who came up with this very basic concept of people breathe too much. As a society, we're chronically hyperventilating.
Really? Now, wait a minute. Time out.
Yeah, because I would think that most people actually hold on to their breath and actually don't breathe enough oxygen into their lungs. So they're walking around stuck, built up, and tight. So this is completely
different from everything we've ever heard. I've had other people that I've interviewed that, I'm a breathing coach, and here's my breathing program. So you've got to jump into this one. Tell us about the science or the theory behind what you're saying.
One of the first things that Patrick said when we started the course with him in Ireland, he said, when you go to like yoga instructor, whatever instructor, coach, they tell you, everybody take a nice deep breath, and everyone is like, and then breathe out through the mouth maybe.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
And that is exactly wrong in every single way, right? So I think it was Lao Tzu that had said something along the lines of the perfect warrior breathes as if he's not breathing. So basically the perfect breathing is where not only is it inaudible, can't be heard by anybody around you or yourself, it should be almost imperceptible. So by that I mean the rise and fall, of your chest, your belly. This should be a very slow and gradual process. Now, what you find, right? If you take a deep breath in and then a deep breath or a fast breath out, like through the mouth, especially, do that 10 times, right? Go in, right? If you do that 10 times or 20 times, and you put your sort of your couple of fingers on the carotid artery on your neck,
yeah, you take your pulse.
You take your pulse is going to be going up. Your blood pressure is going to be going up. So you're entering the sympathetic nervous response, the fight or flight nervous system is activated, right?
Okay.
Conversely, if you breathe slowly and deeply through the nose, and you're still breathing deeply, it's just you're breathing a less of a volume of air per minute. And the reason why that's important is when you're doing some sport, if you breathe out in and out through the mouth a lot, or through the nose out of the mouth, what you're doing is when you're mouth breathing or when you're breathing in and out very quickly, you're expelling too much carbon dioxide. And what that does is it actually changes the pH of your blood, and literally, and you have less carbon dioxide in the blood. But what a lot of people don't know is you need to have a certain level of carbon dioxide in the blood in order for oxygen to get released from the hemoglobin to the cells. So by breathing more, you're ironically or paradoxically your cells, your tissues are less well oxygenated.
Wow. Now, Coach Dawn has a track star, right? And we're both high performing athletes, and we've all been told breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And this is totally different. So she has a rising track star. And I'm just curious, and I'm sure she is too. If we were to tell her rising track star, okay, we want to start practice, because this is going to be a practice, because this is the first time in my entire life I've ever heard this.
Okay.
Man, I don't even know what the question is, because it's like, you know, you tell DJ to, hey, look, we're not going to take these deep breaths. We're not going to be worried about breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're just going to take nice, even, steady breaths. I'm assuming you're suggesting his performance is going to elevate.
How old is DJ?
He's 17 years old. And I also know a lot of track athletes breathe a lot of mouth breathing, right?
Okay. It's not good. By the way, Patrick now, so he started working with asthmatics and people with health issues, but he's grown this. He from Buteco. There's a whole arm of he's built a whole empire based on breathing re-education, and it's called the Oxygen Advantage. And he actually works with athletes. He works with SWAT teams. Right.
Okay.
So he works with very serious performance, right? And most definitely, the only time it would be acceptable to breathe through the mouth or any which way is if you're doing, let's say, a sprint. When you're sprinting for 10 seconds or 15 seconds, or doing a deadlift for maximum weight, 1 RM, it doesn't matter how you breathe. But when you're in your regular everyday life, it's very important to breathe only through the nose. And if you're doing sport, it's actually in most cases, like I said, unless you're doing like an all-out sprint, most of the time you should be breathing through the nose, again, because the more you breathe through the mouth out, the more carbon dioxide you're expelling, and that will actually force you're kind of in that habit where you breathe faster and harder. But again, ironically, the more you do that, the less oxygenated you are because of that pH change and the level of carbon dioxide. And what I'll say is, I remember an anecdote. So Patrick, when way back early when in his career, he's been doing this like 20, 25 years, he had a football team. I think it was the Galway women's soccer team. He had them tape their mouth tape all through their practice time. And I tell you, this is how we re-educate people, especially with kids. You tape their mouth, they do the breath hold exercises. I've done it before where I'd go for a run, and early, 5 years ago when I was doing this, I taped my mouth, and that would force you to get into the habit. And now when I sleep, I always tape my mouth. So I'm always forced to breathe nasally, which is the most optimal way to breathe.
Wow, man. I honestly, I could end this interview right now, because you just completely blown me away.
It's important, this stuff.
I mean, you've completely blown me away.
So, Christian, have you ever been called a holistic practitioner? Does that language resonate with you at all?
I've been called a hoe a few times, but
okay, well, that's not what Coach Don was asking you. But thanks for sharing. There might be some folks that would love to hear that answer. But anyway,
holistic. I don't even know what that means. I suppose, because I guess what it means to me is we have to factor in the entire lifestyle of a person. So when most people I work with, I have very serious intake forms. Like I ask you about everything. Like when you wake up, what do you do? What do you do before sleep? Where how many times do you wake up in the middle of the night? Where is your Wi-Fi router? Do you turn your Wi-Fi router at night? Do you keep your cell phone on airplane mode when it's on your person, right? And all of these things are incredibly important for me to understand, because it will allow me to paint you a picture of where are your biggest stressors. And if we just focus on exercise and diet, maybe supplementation, that's really not gonna hit all the most important things, because recovery is huge. Psychological stress is huge. If you're in a relationship where currently you're not on best terms with your partner, that is going to create such a cascade of stress hormones in your body that is going to hurt your performance in every which way, be that in business, in sport, the way how well rested you are after you sleep. So we have to factor absolutely every single thing. That's why, for example, if I'm working with a kid, I ask, is the or let's say the because I've written a book on autism, just context for the listeners. I also work with children with health issues by helping their parents help them. But I ask, was this the first pregnancy? Was the pregnancy eventful, uneventful? How old was the mom? So there's so many different factors. Was it the first kid or the third kid? All of these factors put together will help us to understand where the biggest stressors to this person, and how do we identify and remove the biggest obstacles to health. So I would say I'm not being cold holistic because I don't use that word, because I believe it's so overused, but I would definitely
I agree with that, Christian, 100%. So thank you for that clarification. So
if you all are driving and you want to know where to find Christian, I just want you to know, for you YouTubes, you can see it. But for those of you that are driving, you need to go to christianyardanov.com, and it's Christian, ChristianYardanov.com. Now, Coach Dawn has another question for you, Christian.
Sure. So thank you for all that description. I really appreciate that. Being I'm a mother, a parent of an athlete, and it sounds like there's a DNA, like the total human. Every cell in our body is important. So tell us about this DNAfit training that you also offer in your amazing extensive practice.
So actually, I work with a couple of companies that do genetic testing, and basically the DNAfit panel, they run about, I think, 40 genes. And these are the most studied genes that pertain to athletic performance. And another company I work with, they also do a similar panel. And basically, it tells us things like predisposition for injury. Are you more of an explosive or more of an endurance type athlete? And generally, if someone like, for example, in your case, if DJ is a track athlete, generally, when we run a test like this, they're going to be more likely to be the explosive type athlete, right? If someone has tends to long duration cycling, they tend to be more of the endurance type. So we tend to gravitate towards what we are genetically predisposed to. Like if I'm really good at sprinting, it's unlikely I'm probably going to be more bulky. It's unlikely I'm going to be going for running. But there's a lot of other things. So how quickly? So I said predisposition to injury. That has to do with some certain collagen formation genes. How quickly you recover. And when we know this information, we can basically tailor it. So if you have a high predisposition for injury, for example, and if you take longer to recover from workouts based on your genetics, for example, then we assess your training routine. And if when you're 17, you could probably train 6 days a week, no problem. But sometimes you find with a lot of athletes that let's say have more of a predisposition for injury. They're more of the opposite type of what the sport that they're training for. If you reduce their training frequency, or sometimes just in general their training load, they actually start to have an improvement in performance. Because you may know yourselves, to elicit a strength response, you don't need a lot of sets per week. Like you could do that in four sets a week, and to induce hypertrophy in a person under 10 sets, 6 to 8 sets per muscle group per week may be desirable. So we actually, as a culture, tend to overdo things. We overtrain, we undereat, we overfast, so we don't sleep enough. So I believe these genetic tests are a really good way to show black on white. Look, you've got a predisposition for injury here. Can we maybe taper down a couple of these sessions by 15 minutes and maybe take every second week, take Wednesdays off? And when athletes see that, they're like, all right, you know what? If it will help with my genetics and help me with reduce injury risk, and maybe get less colds, because we know that's another big problem when an athlete gets a cold from overtraining, then they can't train, but then they still train, and then they don't heal that quickly. So when they see this data, it really helps us to kind of establish better recovery
regimens.
Yeah, regimens.
So what about most of our audiences are us? Most of our audiences are let's say over 35. And so, they're not technically competing for anything. They're not technically probably doing anything explosive. I'm curious, even selfishly for myself, what would I learn about how to live a better life, how to live a cleaner life from a DNAfit test, or does the DNAfit test not really appropriate for me? Because I do know that there's tests out there that will tell you like what you're short on in minerals, what works better for your body, and your physicality. And maybe that's because it does say fit trainer, so that probably is for that. But what do you have testing wise that addresses that issue?
Yeah, so for yourself, there's so many interesting tests. So that if you're interested in excuse me, if you're interested in genetics, we have, and when I say if you're interested, I really mean it. If you do want to run any of these tests that I just mentioned, you just let me know and we'll get it run. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Hey, Christian, can I ask real quick, is it a saliva test or is it a blood test?
Probably hair.
Is it hair?
No, the genetic test is actually either saliva or a dried blood spot. So with kids, generally we do the swab in the cheek, the inside of the cheek, but for adults we do the blood spot because it's just a little bit more stable. So in case it gets lost in transit, we have a couple of extra weeks to retrieve it without losing the sample integrity. So both are available. Yeah, so there's the other company I use for genetic testing. They do DNA Health is one of the tests, and the other one is GrowBaby. So a lady that would like to get pregnant, we can do the GrowBaby test, and a dude or anybody that's interested in just general DNA testing, it's the DNA Health panel basically has a lot of the genes with the most research backing them. So things like folate metabolism, methylation, vitamin D requirements. There's an interesting gene on how you metabolize alcohol. Are you a fast or medium metabolizer? Caffeine metabolizer. So there's maybe 40 different genes. And for me, the most interesting aspect of that panel is the stuff related to methylation, which we don't really have time to talk about. But that one can actually really help us. And I'm saying it, I shouldn't say prevent things like atherosclerosis and stuff like that, but suffice it to say, I ran that panel on myself. I discovered I have a predisposition, not a predisposition for atherosclerosis, but I have a certain gene there that basically can cause a higher risk for a lot of things that run in my family. So it's a little bit more, I suppose, long-term thinking. But usually my preference is when someone asks me, what should I test? I usually say, let's test hormones. So sex hormones, adrenal hormones. So let's see your androgens, your estrogens, how you're metabolizing those. And I love seeing people's stress hormones. So cortisol through the night, in the morning, in the afternoon. A lot of young people nowadays, you run this cortisol panel on them, and they're stressed
off
the chart.
Yeah.
So it's a very good way to get, especially a guy that's like super hard driving, and a lot of ego is preventing him from slowing down. When you show him this, I'm like, guy, my friend, cortisol literally ages you. Do you want in 10 years time? Do you want to like have aged 20 years?
Right.
You know. So when people see this data, they're like, oh, okay, I need to start maybe taking it down a notch, maybe reduce the accelerator a bit. So that's another one. And my absolute favorite test is a simple urine collection test. You do that at home, and we check for if you have certain bacterial dysbiosis in the gut, candida, yeast. We check vitamin B deficiencies, antioxidants, things like oxalates, how you're producing energy, so mitochondrial function, which is important for longevity and optimal performance. So that would be my actually my favorite test. If anybody's ever interested in, like, can I just check my levels or whatever, that's the test we run, and we always find something to improve. I love that, which is why I love it.
That's so awesome. I mean, I would think you should be Dr. Christian.
Yeah.
No.
No.
The problem is
better than that to me, right?
Yeah, doctors are too constrained by the system they're in, so even the ones that want to help people can't really help people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And are they really trying to help people?
That's another question there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to leave this topic, but I still got to ask this last question about it. So there's so many supplements that you're told to take. So my question is, how can I figure out, I know that there is, and I was always going to do it. They say, send us a hair sample and we're going to tell you what minerals you're deficient so that I can know exactly what supplements to take. Because if you listen to society or social media, you got to take them all. And you're just like, holy cow, how am I going to take all these pills? And then, obviously some of them you don't need. So what's the test for that?
So the organic acids test that I mentioned, we can see a lot of B vitamins, and we can see coenzyme Q10. We can see the main cellular antioxidant glutathione. If that's low, generally you're in trouble. If that's low, it means you're under a lot of toxic exposure, or you're not eating enough protein. I can actually run some hair tests. I work with some companies that do hair testing. I actually run hair testing more when I suspect someone has occupational exposure to metals. If you work in an industry. We can do we can do blood analysis of vitamins and minerals. But to be honest with you, I don't run these tests most of the time. Very rarely do I feel like, because some of these tests will be like $350 or something like that. Right. So I feel like you can get several supplements. You could get a year's supply of these supplements for that price. So rather than, see, am I low? Why don't you just take the insurance and just take the supplements? Because after working with people for this long, I know what most people were most people are deficient in many things. For example, let me ask you this: do you eat liver?
Nope.
Not in a very long time.
Right? Do you eat egg yolks?
Yep.
Yes.
How often? How many per week, roughly?
Not as much as I used to. I can tell you what, I used to have about 6 a day. Now it's probably 6 a week.
Okay.
And that's not on purpose. I just stopped eating them as much.
Yeah. Do you eat meat?
I do.
Every day?
Almost.
Okay.
At least 5 to 6 days.
And milk and dairy?
No milk and dairy.
Okay. Yeah, you see, when we do this, we can see. So, for example, liver is literally nature's multivitamin. So you have all the minerals, all the vitamins, and all the things that we haven't even discovered that are probably essential for life. Could be hundreds of them, really. So all of those things are contained in liver and organ meats.
So let me ask you this question, because I just
that is so, again, you are really pushing our learned environmental experiences, because I grew up on liver. Liver back in the day was literally a very affordable means to feed your family.
Right.
And then again, in America, we grow up and it's like, oh no, liver's bad. And so please enlighten me. Let
me ask you, let me set the question up this way. So of course you've heard of the Liver King, right?
I have heard of him, yeah.
Okay. So this other expert, I'm not sure who said it or where I saw it, but they were like, yeah, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's like, and what they really said was, in very quick terms, was the liver is the catch-all to cleanse the body. So as much as it has the good minerals, it also has the stuff that the body's trying to get rid of.
Who said this?
I can't remember. I shouldn't even bring it up because I can't remember who said it. But they were like,
it's a very valid question, right? But it's a little bit uninformed. It's a very two-dimensional argument. So yes, a lot of toxins go to the liver to get detoxified, but what happens is they go to the liver, they get transformed, they get bound up to something, and now they are inactivated, and now they're sent out. So they're sent out in the bile, they get into the feces, the poop, and they get into the urine, some of them. So yes, there are some toxins in everything, in every bit of food that you eat, vegetable or animal product, but the form. So those toxins in the liver are usually on their way to be excreted, and they've been neutralized and bound up. So I think that is an incredibly, it's not like that's a very two-dimensional way of looking at it. It's like saying the liver is a filter, like your car filter, or
Right.
like your HEPA air purifier filter, and when that's jammed up, you have to throw it out to get a new one. That's not how the human physiology works, right? It's a very complex process of biotransformation and excretion. So it's not like all these toxins are just swimming around in the liver. And I'll tell you one thing: you really need to eat liver consistently for a few months, and you will feel better. Like especially if you have some health problems, right? And you start eating, let's say, 8, 9, 10 ounces of liver a week, 2-3 times a week, for a total of 8, 9, 10 ounces, you will see how much faster you're going to start feeling better. It just accelerates the process. Again, because you have all the minerals, all the vitamins, you have a bit of protein, a bit of fat, vitamin E, which is hard to find in good forms. It all comes with seed oils, right? Vitamin K, very hard to find in the diet. You have to eat a ton of dairy to get vitamin K. Vitamin A, you won't find any of these fat-soluble vitamins in plant foods. So you're literally having a bomb of vitamins and minerals. It's a multivitamin. I've eaten this week. It's Friday. We've eaten, my family, 4 times.
Wow.
So 4 out of 5 days, I've cooked a little bit of liver, and even my dog gets a little bit here and there because.
Okay, so what's the best, in your opinion? What's the best kind, or best source, the best source of liver?
So in the USA, you guys are fairly lucky because there's so many companies that just do, pastured, grass-fed, all that good stuff that direct to your door. So I recommend to my clients a company called Butcher Box.
Okay,
And
I've
you
heard
can
of Butcher
order
Box.
once, twice a month. They have all sorts of amazing stuff. There's another company, Paleo Valley, that I tell people just, instead of eating a cupcake or whatever you were used to eating, or even an apple, go get some grass-fed beef jerky, some really organic, healthy snacks. So even when you're out the house, okay, you can't eat your tasty organic food that's at home, but that doesn't mean you can't bring some organic snacks, so you're not getting poisoned by the industrial food that's permeated, especially Western society, but most especially the US. So yeah, get online, type in grass-fed organ meats. If you can't get them, go and at least get some desiccated grass-fed. That's a second best option, not as good as fresh. And the types I recommend is just beef, if you can find beef liver, or I can only find chicken liver organic, so just get chicken liver and hearts.
Okay.
Chicken hearts. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And the
And by
heart
the way,
has the same effect as the liver?
One thing about heart is actually it's a very good source of testosterone, because heart has a lot of testosterone. It's protective against cortisol. So when you're very stressed and your cortisol is surging, if you have a very stressed diet, lifestyle, training regime, whatever else, and you don't eat enough, the cortisol will start with your muscles, then your skin, then your joints, and your bones. Eventually it will start breaking down your organs, and the last thing to go is the heart. Even the brain will get atrophied by cortisol before the heart, and the factor that's protecting is the high amount of testosterone there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So much to process, Christian. Thank you so much for that. Oh my goodness. So
pleasure.
my question, this is my own selfish question. My system is slow. All right. And so we hear a lot about detox to get the bad stuff out of the way so your system can constantly be in like a state of like good digestive health.
Yeah.
So can you basically, describe to us what is, why is detoxing important? Is it necessary? And what are the best ways to go about detoxing the body?
So you're detoxing all the time. You're constantly breathing in things and being exposed to things every day. So your body is constantly detoxing, right? Now, some things, unfortunately, in the current world, they are very difficult to detox. So we talk about these persistent organic pollutants, things like organochlorine pesticides from back in the 50s, 60s. So things that have been banned, that are persistent in the environment, that they kind of bioaccumulate up the food chain, and unfortunately or fortunately we're up at the top of the food chain, so we get a lot of these toxins, and they prefer to accumulate in fatty tissue. They're called lipophilic. And unfortunately a large part of the brain is fats. So we should count ourselves lucky that these things are in our fatty stores on our body. A lot of these things are accumulating because otherwise they would get into organs in our brain. So we all have these. We all are accumulating them daily. And what happens is when our nutrition isn't up to par, it's not up to scratch, slowly the body will continue detoxifying these things, but it will use up energy and nutrients along the way. If we don't keep replacing the nutrients and the energy, we start to overwhelm the detoxification system. So that's when things can start to accumulate more. We can't excrete them. Things can start breaking down. The body will rob our muscles for amino acids and vitamins, our bones for calcium and other magnesium, things like that. So detoxification, most of the people I work with, supporting the gut, supporting detoxification, is the two fundamental things we have to work on, because most people just are not aware how important it is to reduce your toxic exposure. So we are kind of sleepwalking into serious health problems unless we wake up, reduce toxic exposures, start adding the nutrients. So, and this is why I said liver earlier, guys, because like you can get zinc, you can get you can get a selenium supplement, you can get B vitamins, you can get a vitamin E supplement, but you can just eat liver 3 times a week, 6 ounces or 5 ounces every three days or whatever, and you're gonna get all of these things probably in a much more absorbable form. So that is what I tell people. But if you want to support your detoxification system with supplements, one of the first things I recommend is actually glycine, which is an amino acid. It is usually found in collagenous animal products, so the things we don't eat anymore. So skin, bones, joints, cartilage. So back in the day when we used to eat the whole animal, sort of nose to tail, we would eat a lot of glycine and collagen, and this would really help to support our detoxification system. Nowadays, when you just eat the steaks, and if you don't eat ground beef, which does have collagen in because it's cheaper to create, and ironically, organic ground beef is probably healthier than just red meat with no fat, no collagenous tissue on it, and it's cheaper. So adding glycine to your supplement program every day, maybe 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 grams a day. Not only does it help support detoxification because it's a building block of the main detoxification enzymes, glutathione, it also has been shown to help with sleep. So 3-4 grams helps with sleep, and it spares. So like I said, the body will gladly rob your bones for calcium, for glycine, for your collagen tissue, for whenever it needs this glycine. So by giving yourself glycine in the diet, you're sparing your collagen, and that means that your gorgeous skin, your supple joints, and all that good stuff are going to stay healthier and better looking for longer.
And possibly prevent injury.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
That is the first thing that the bell that went off in my head. It's like if we're robbing our bones, especially for athletes or as we age.
Think about what's a big risk for postmenopausal women. It's osteoporosis.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm telling my wife, she's like, why are you shoving these calcium supplements? You're shoving these calcium supplements at me every day. I'm like, look, 3 calcium pills are 600 milligrams. The minimum, the RDA for a woman is 1,000 to 1,200, depending on ages and stages. So, because she's lactose intolerant, she can't have dairy, right? So I'm drinking like 2 quarts of milk a day. So it's not a problem for me. I'm telling her, even with this supplement, you're only barely half of your RDA, and that doesn't even consider the fact that you're not absorbing all of it. So
part.
that's why you have to supplement. So some people can't, like, let's say you're vegan for ethical reasons, you cannot eat meat. Well, you're gonna miss out on a lot of bioavailable protein. So those folks, we have to add these glycines and all these other amino acids to prevent a lot of the problems that can occur.
So what about, I have a lot of clients and a lot of women clients and women in my universe that have consistent bowels. And I know that like some women, when they get pregnant, when they get after pregnancy, their bowels might change and they're not as consistent or regular. Is that just a fact that people have to deal with, or women have to deal with, or is there something in addition to the things that you've already mentioned about eating better and having nutrition? Is there something specific that should be done to help become more regular?
I think, you have to be regular. At least once a day should be for most people, at least. And it's not normal to go every second or third. That's actually not normal. So the first thing I would probably recommend for someone that's kind of a little bit not as regular as they used to be would be a probiotic. So that can actually help. Generally, if you become less regular, that is usually indicative of some type of it could be a microbial imbalance in the gut. The microbiome might be shifted in a direction you probably don't want it to shift. So, for example, with children that are constipated, when we run the stool tests and we check them, we notice a lot of overgrowth of bacteria, and usually, or some of the time, very low numbers of the commensals, or sometimes they're called as beneficial bacteria. So a probiotic can start to sort of nudge things in the other direction. It can actually help to increase the lactobacillus, the bifidobacterium numbers. It can start to reduce the numbers of more pathogenic bacteria. So that's where I would start first. If the probiotic doesn't help, it usually should help, right? And you can you can try. If a regular dose doesn't work, you can double it. And if you double it and then triple it, quadruple it, if that doesn't do much for your bowels, it probably means you have some type of infection. At that point, I would consider, ideally, you want to work with a practitioner, but you can also do some type of herbal cleanse. So, for example, you can go on iherb.com. There's a lot of different supplements, but something like olive leaf extract is probably what I would start very slowly, like literally a drop a day, and then slowly bring it up. Maybe oregano oil, which is actually it's very strong. So oregano oil in a little bit of olive oil or coconut oil, something like that, to just kind of start slowly killing off any pathogenic bacteria that may be there, coupled with a probiotic. So that's what I would say. But again, with these sort of things, you also have to be careful, because sometimes if there is an overt infection that is kind of not dormant, but it's being kept in check by the commensals, let's say, and the immune system. If you get immunocompromised, let's say you get sick, or you get you're given antibiotics, or something happens, or you travel somewhere, you eat the wrong food, it can then overwhelm the body. So with these kinds of things, I would rather err on the side of caution. If the probiotic doesn't help, you may want to seek professional help.
Okay. Now, I noticed on, and this is, I'm going to preface this question by saying I do very little social media, but when I do, I find I get most entertained by TikTok. And on TikTok, I don't know if it's just my feed, I don't know if it's your feed, but on my feed, I see a lot of stuff about parasites in the body. Is this something that you've heard pick up more now than later? And if so or not, what needs to happen to make sure that you're not having that issue?
Yeah, actually, parasites is it's part of my health journey. So back in 2019, when I was I did that hormone test as part of my functional diagnostic nutrition training. So I did the sex hormone test, the cortisol test, and my testosterone was tanked. My cortisol was off the charts, through the roof. So I was like, what in the heck is going on here? So my mentor on the course said this could either be heavy metals or parasites. So I'm like, all right, test for both. Hair testing, stool testing, and lo and behold, I had a bunch of bacteria, dysbiotic bacteria, a ton of candida, which is actually very hard to detect on stool tests. We generally use urine to detect it. And I had two parasites, Blastocystis hominis and Giardia, which I'm sure everybody knows. So man, the months before, the couple of months before, basically I was doing the carnivore diet. I must have eaten some raw meat or liver,
Okay.
and I gave them to myself. And basically, yeah, the couple of months before that, I was definitely not right. I was definitely not right.
Okay.
It destroys your hormones. I just started working with a client that he had very similar presentation. No libido, no hormones, no strength to even do 10 literally not even 10 push-ups, not even 5 push-ups, sleep problems, waking up in the middle of the night, can't tolerate foods, diarrhea, constipation, intermittent, each one. So parasites are most certainly a thing. You got your tiny little protozoa. Some of these things can travel up your bile ducts and camp out in your liver or in your gallbladder. Some of them can go and hide out in the pancreas. They can cause a lot of very serious systemic problems without having actual gut dysfunction. So for example, certain amoebas, things like that, you can just have insomnia, like really tanked hormones, but you might be pooping like everything is totally fine. And which is why it's important to, I believe, so twice a year I do a parasite cleanse. And funny enough that you ask, but last night I started my parasite cleanse because the supplements arrived a little bit later than I expected. So I kind of do it with the change of the seasons, when springtime comes in March, and when autumn arrives in September. And what I do is basically tend to, because dude, I had these horrible parasites. I was like, my health was in shambles, and like getting rid of them, and like I was on top of the world after I got rid of them. So I'm like, no way in hell I'm letting that happen again.
Right,
So,
right.
Even
Preventive
my dog,
maintenance.
even my dog and my 2-year-old are gonna get a parasite cleanse now.
Okay.
So one of my favorite things actually for a parasite cleanse is called diatomaceous earth, which is,
say that again.
Diatomaceous earth.
Okay.
So DI tomaceous.
Let's sound it out. Okay.
Yeah, no, you if you type it in Amazon, it will come up, right? So
Okay.
you want to get kind of food grade. I literally bought a 44-pound bag of the sack. It's a 44-pound sack of this stuff. It's basically used for animal feed, and farmers put it in the animal feed. Basically, diatomaceous earth is little diatoms, which are not microscopic, but they're tiny little, almost like crustaceans, like shelled marine creatures.
Mhm.
And you're literally just drinking powdered shells that as they go down, they just cut and rupture everything along the way.
Out.
That's literally the visual I just received.
They just
100%.
scrape everything out.
But they don't hurt your regular bacteria.
Okay.
It's just parasites, because usually parasites, they have like maybe like a mouth that will like stick onto your intestine, and it will suck. So just cut it on the way. Not the prettiest of pictures. So diatomaceous earth, it also kind of helps to just clear the way. Diatomaceous earth is really good, and then you can get these kind of they're all herbs. It's either clove, black walnut, hull, and there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But if you type in like in iherb.com parasite cleanse, the main ingredients will come up. It's usually cloves, walnut, hull, and artemisia. Artemisia is the other one, and a few other things here and there. And so I do that a couple of times a year. Try to time it with the full moon as well, because they're more active around the full moon.
Okay.
And with parasites, because they have a very long life cycle, some of them like literally weeks, you want to go for maybe a couple of weeks, then take a week off, a couple more weeks. And this all has to do with, if you're in general good health, you can just do like a 10 to 20 day cleanse once, and then maybe follow up every 6 months or once a year for a week or two. But if you do have gut issues, it's probably worth going a bit harder at first, if everything clears up, then you've done some good work, and then you can again just maintain it. That's how I like to think of it. You want to maintain, in case something has had a chance to overgrow. You just want to cut. It's like cutting the grass.
Right.
Lawn. Yeah.
Well, I have one more question for you. And in some of your information, you talk about boosting the brain. You talk about boosting the brain. So tell us a little bit about that. And I know you're super busy, so we won't keep you too long, but this is amazing. It's great stuff. You didn't nail 3 or 4 things that just sent me off the charts. But what about boosting the brain?
Oh my God, have we been going 50 minutes? I can't even.
Yes, that's what I was trying to tell you. Yeah.
But you see, this is my problem, man. Once I open my mouth, you have to like really shut me up.
No,
like,
everything I would chew your ear off.
So
no, you've been great.
All right, listen.
Valuable.
Actually, guys, 2-3 weeks ago, I started writing my next book. It's called. It's going to be called something along the lines of Shortcuts to Better Health, Longevity, and Mental Performance.
Well, put me down for the first edition. I want my first signed. I want the first signed edition.
100%.
Yeah,
put me down. Put me on your pre-mailing list. Whatever you need.
For sure. You're getting a copy sent direct to you, my man.
All right.
But one of the, obviously, because of the title, and I've said it on like 10 interviews already. I really hope somebody doesn't steal my title between now and then. But
hey, well, go get your ISBN if you guys are. I know we have to do that here in the States, and put the name in, and you'll even if you don't have the book written, it'll just ask you for a description. Go get it, bro.
I know. I'm not worried though, because
All right.
It's hard to write a book, so whoever does that, if they do that, they deserve to
I love the confidence.
Yeah.
So mental performance, nootropics, this is such an area. I love this area. So let me give you, literally, I'm going to tell you what the whole chapter of the book will be about.
Okay.
Only 3 supplements, but they're really powerful. And you heard it here first before the book even comes out, guys.
Excellent.
So it's just like if you have a Ferrari, you're not gonna be like, okay, trying to think of a better analogy. Just like before you go running a marathon, you need basic things in place, right? You're not gonna like start let's do away with the analogies. You want to set the base first, right?
Okay.
So you need basic energy production to work well in the body, for the mind to work well, for the brain to work well, and therefore the mind to work well. So you can't add really high-end supplements on a system that's in shambles, right? So this is where I was trying to get an analogy going, but it's been a very long day, right?
I see you.
So the neurons, the brain cells, they work with energy. They work mainly with glucose. They don't actually burn fat. Sometimes they can burn ketones. So B vitamins, a good B vitamin complex, or B vitamins from liver and egg yolks, is incredibly important to support the energy production system, because that is kind of the directly and indirectly what supports everything else, detoxification, everything, literally everything. So a good B vitamin complex in the morning with breakfast. And believe it or not, creatine has been shown in studies to really help with cognitive function. You can literally raise your IQ just taking creatine. Okay.
Wow.
Right.
How much, Christian?
5 grams. Oh, how many IQ points? A bazillion. 5 grams every single day for the rest of your life.
Wow.
With food, if you can take it after a workout with a bit of protein and some carbs, that helps to for the cells to uptake it better.
Can you drop it in a shake or something like that?
Sure.
Okay.
Just as long as you take 3 to 5 grams. I would always err on the side of more, because I just am like that. So I take 5 grams every day. Give 5 grams to my wife whenever she's in the mood.
There you go, shoving it. There you go, shoving.
Yeah, it's
literally shoving stuff down her throat. Okay, Christian. Okay.
So then the other 2 supplements are just incredible supplements. One is called CDP choline, okay? Or it's also known as citicholine with a C, CITI choline.
Okay.
And there's a company called Jarrow Formulas. They have one. They have a supplement, and the other one is called Alpha GPC. Same company also has that one. So one of these is enough. If you take this supplement either one of these supplements, you will feel it. I've never had anybody try the supplement and tell me, I feel the same. I don't feel it. It's just something about it. Basically, so what these supplements do is they provide choline, which is important in the brain. In fact, the choline doesn't have an RDA in the USA. It has an adequate intake, which is like just some BS numbers that somebody came up with.
Right.
But in spite of that, most I think they say something like 90% of Americans don't even reach the adequate intake for choline daily. So that's a long way of saying most people are deficient in choline. Most people's diets are deficient in choline. So it's natural when you add these choline based supplements that people really feel a boost. And it actually, by the way, alpha GP. So most of the benefits of these supplements have been studied in people with some type of either traumatic brain injury, ischemic stroke, some type of neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's, and they're really showing good promise for these conditions. But I believe there was, because I'm going to be going through a bunch of the research for my book, I believe I saw a study that it was sports people that also got a benefit. Because when you think about it, you're supporting, you're supporting with choline and phosphatidylcholine, you're supporting the repair of neurons. And these neurons are part of the nervous system. So it's only natural. If you boost brain function, you're going to boost coordination, alertness, all of the things that sound physical performance demands. So just I would say, if you want to know which I would recommend first, I'd say Alpha GPC, because it's cheaper.
Okay.
If you get that, it just the CDP choline went up a lot in price over the last 3 years with the inflation. I think it almost tripled in price.
Wow.
So yeah, Alpha GPC.
Okay.
Once or twice a day, with food, without food, doesn't really matter. And creatine every day, that alone should give, and B vitamins, of course. That not only will it give you like a improved cognitive performance, but you should have more energy. And when you have more energy, everything in the body is better. You regenerate better, you repair better.
24K, baby. I love it. All right, man. Well, I so appreciate and honor all that you shared with us. You were worried about, living up to the intro, and you just blew that away. So with that, man, I want you to hang back for a second while we close up, and then I'll bring you back. All right. I don't know. Look, I'm giving you he killed it. If you don't listen to anything that we've ever done, this is something that you should listen to, re-listen to, and then get your iPad, get your computer out and start digging for the answers. Most importantly, just scrap all that and take the shortcut and go straight to Yordanov.com. Just go straight to the shortcut, right? Why waste your time? He's going to bring the book out, but there's no reason to wait for the book. The book is just going to be a backup to what you're learning if you go visit him right now. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm blown away, and I'm going to be listening to my own podcast over and over to make sure I really absorb everything. I will be one of the first to reach out to Christian to do some of this testing to understand how my body works. Because you know what? In 24K Life, we talk about cracking your code.
Right. 100%.
So what is your code to high energy? What is your code to a better lifestyle? What is your code to better brain function?
And you know where it is?
Where?
It's in our own individual DNA, baby.
So we are cracking the code to your DNA. So I want you all to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate Christian's time. This has been just amazing. So, hey, I'm Derick Gant. I want you to be your best, bring your best, leave nothing to chance.
Be well.